A clock is a tool for tracking the time of day. Most clocks look like a circle with the numbers 1 through 12 spaced around the edge, with the 12 on the top, the 6 on the bottom, and the 3 and the 9 on each side. Extending out from the center of the clock, so I'll make a little dot right here in the center, extending out from the center of the clock are 3 hands. We're going to talk about each of these 3 hands one at a time. So the first one that we'll talk about is the shortest of the 3 hands, and it is called the hour hand. This hand will make a full circle every 12 hours, reaching a new number each hour. At 1 o'clock, the hour hand will point directly at the 1. So at 1 o'clock, the hour hand is going to look like this, pointing directly at the 1. At 4 o'clock, for another example, the hour hand is going to look like this, and it's going to be pointing directly at the 4. And the same goes for all of the hours. At 9 o'clock, the hour hand will be pointing straight at the 9. At 11 o'clock exactly, the hour hand will be pointing exactly straight at the 11. Now, when we're halfway through an hour, so let's take an example like 9:30, for example, halfway through the 9 o'clock hour, then the hour will point halfway between the 9 and the 10. So if we were talking about the time 9:30, halfway through the 9 o'clock hour, the hour hand will be pointing halfway between the 9 and the 10. At 11:30, for another example, the hour hand would be pointing halfway between the 11 and the 12. The next hand that we are going to look at is called the minute hand. The minute hand is a longer hand that makes a full circle every hour. Between each number on the clock are 5 spaces. So between the 1 and 2, for example, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Between the 4 and 5 and the 9 and 10, between every 2 numbers on the clock, there are 5 spaces. The minute hand will pass through each space 1 per minute, reaching a new number every 5 minutes. At each hour, at the top of the hour, the minute hand will point straight up to the 12. So at the beginning of each new hour, so say for example it was 5 o'clock, the 5 o'clock hour, right at exactly 5 o'clock, the minute hand will point straight up to the 12. And like we saw before when we were talking about the hour hand, the shorter hour hand would be pointing straight at the 5. So at the beginning of each hour, at the start of the hour, the minute hand always points straight up to the 12. And then halfway through the hour, at 30 minutes past the hour, the minute hand will point straight down at the 6. So if it was still, say, 5:30, or the 5 o'clock hour, but we were looking at halfway through the 5 o'clock hour, so 5:30, the minute hand would be pointing straight down at the 6, indicating that it's gone halfway through the hour. And then the hour hand that we talked about before will be halfway between the 5 and the 6 to indicate that it is 5:30. at 59 minutes past the hour. So if we were looking at a time of, say for example, 3:59, at 59 minutes past the hour, the minute hand will point to the space just before the 12. So the minute hand would be clear up here, straight at the space right before the 12, and it would almost be 4 o'clock. If it was 3:59, it would be 1 minute before 4 o'clock. And so the hour hand would be pointing almost at the 4. It would be just to the 3 side, just before the 4. But the hour hand would be pointing there, almost at the 4, and the minute hand would be pointing at 59 minutes past the hour, which is 1 minute before the next hour, and it would be pointing one space to the left of the 12. A third hand, usually red, in this case I've drawn it in black, is called the second hand. The hand moves around the full circle once per minute, passing through each space 1 per second, and reaching a new number every 5 seconds. So in this case here, I've got my minute hand pointing straight up at the 12, meaning it's the start of the hour. I have my hour hand pointing to the 8, meaning that it's 8 o'clock, and the second hand is pointing to the 4, meaning that 20 seconds have passed since the start of the 8 o'clock hour. All the hands on the clock rotate in the same direction, so they go in the direction that the numbers are increasing from 1 and then increasing around to back up to the 12 again. This direction is known as clockwise. Many clocks do not have the second hand, but all clocks have the hour hand and the minute hand.